Welcome into the afternoon sports drive on the Triple Play Sports Radio Network. Patrick Wheeler and Zach Lancaster here with you on this Thursday, and I am live from Exchange Bank and Trust, 4301 West 6th. Out here is their Stillwater location. And in 2021, Exchange Bank and Trust is celebrating their 125th anniversary, serving customers in northern Oklahoma. So happy anniversary here to Andrea Bindley and the gang. And right now, of course, one of the best things they offer over here, you love to personalize everything you have. I know you do. We all do. And you can do it with your debit card over here, the orange debit card. For all those Stillwater folks who bleed orange, it's perfect. Add that to your free bill pay on our checking accounts, and something they've always offered. There's so much great stuff to check out over here at Exchange Bank. Patrick Wheeler, Zach Lancaster. Zach's back here today. What's going on today, man?
Oh, man. I am nothing much. I'm doing much better than I was yesterday. I'll say this. For as miserable as I was yesterday after getting that shot, I would take that sickness over COVID every single time. Every time.
Yeah, I would imagine that's probably the case, considering that you're back within a day with us too. I mean, that's an improvement, right, from where it was.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, just one day.
So much more of an improvement there. We have a lot going on today on the show. We're going to dive into the Deshaun Watson drama here momentarily. Coming up in about 20 minutes, we'll be joined by Damian Sordelet. Out of the News in Advance in Lynchburg. He's a beat writer, covers Liberty, so he's going to give us his insight on what to expect in tomorrow evening's matchup between Oklahoma State and the Liberty Flames, as we are just a day away from March Madness. Some people, Zach, like to say that it officially kicks off tonight, and I guess I'm almost in that, but I won't quite say officially because these are still the play-in games to figure out who's actually going to make it into that larger field there. But when you look at the list of playing games that are on today, and one's coming up here very shortly, we talked about it a little bit yesterday on the show, taking a look at that Michigan State-UCLA game. Just the fact that you've got two blue bloods in a playing game is going to draw plenty of interest later tonight. The one coming up here in just about an hour is Mount St. Mary's and Texas Southern. Wichita State and Drake play after that. Norfolk State and Appalachian State play after that. And then Michigan State and UCLA tops it off. And we're going to reveal our brackets later on in the show, too. But I already know, Zach, that there are a lot of people that they look at that Michigan State-UCLA playing game, and they already have, it doesn't matter whoever wins that, they already have them beating the 6th seed in BYU.
yeah, and that's, I like it. You know, I get that it's a play-in game, but there's something about being at this level, you know, at this time of the year that, you know, you might struggle throughout the year, and, you know, they might stick you in a play-in game, but UCLA and Michigan State, they've both been here before. So I think at least one of my brackets, I'm sure I've picked UCLA or Michigan State.
Yeah, it's popular right there. You know what? That's why it's so tough to pick teams, because a lot of them can hit strides at this point. You know, it's basically a new season. That's how you have to adapt this. Mm-hmm. Adapt that mindset if you're any team, and that's why you get teams going on runs all the time. So it's going to be fun to watch. I can't wait for it to kick off officially tomorrow morning. Playing games this evening. We'll talk to some Liberty people later on, like we talked about there with Damian. I want to dive into this Deshaun Watson stuff, because this has just ballooned in the last couple of days. And I said that yesterday we were talking about Deshaun Watson. I was like, yeah, we got breaking news out of last night, Deshaun Watson, but it's not about anything he's doing on the field. It's about potentially what he's doing off the field. Now, this is just an allegation still, multiple allegations now. It started off with just one allegation of accused sexual assault by a massage therapist, and now there have been 3 last I checked. And Tony Busby, the lawyer who is dropping all of these and filing all of these allegations, says he's sitting on 6 total right now. So you're sitting on, there's been 3 that have been made public by different women who have remained nameless so far. And to me, Zach, right now, you know, it's still, I think it's fair to still question this timing a little bit. Also the validity of it. Now, you know, you have to wait for all the facts to come out before you can figure out if this really happened or if it didn't happen or whatever. But it's simply because of how everyone knows Deshaun Watson, right? A pillar to the community in Houston, what he's done off the field. This would come, I'll just say it would come as a very large surprise to me. Because of the what we've been seeing him portrayed as, off the field, like I talked about there. So I want to see where this goes from here. But you talk about him and the Texans and any team that was wanting his services and was going to make offers, being in a hard place right now, between a rock and a hard place. I mean, it's not a great time for anybody involved in those three parties right there, and that's why we saw Tyrod Taylor get locked up the other day.
Yeah, and it's, we heard about this earlier this week when the first one came out, and the first one seemed a little fishy, right? A little, it seemed a little unstable, because it was like, this isn't about money, we're not seeking money, this is about the right thing, but then they were also demanding several $100,000, which if it's not about money, then you're not demanding several $100,000. But then you get, two more that have come out right now, and then at least, like you said, at least three more that the guy is holding on to. It's starting to be a little more, and not that the first time it wasn't, right? Not that the first time the lawsuit came out wasn't serious, but it's starting to feel a lot more serious. And that was something I was thinking about today with what you just brought up. Is, well, this might be a little bit, the Texans might not having to be worrying too much more about trying to keep Deshaun Watson. Well, we need to try to make him happy. Let's try to land some big time talent. Let's try to put stuff around him, because very possible that he's not going to be a quarterback this upcoming fall.
Well, it's even possible that you have teams that are backing off now, too. That's the thing. I don't know. I mean, you're running into a situation, and you kind of hit on it there, where the NFL personal conduct policy, to me, will get exposed again for actually how ridiculous it is. Because if you look at the conduct policy that's been in place, and people have had issues with it for forever, and that is basically the NFL can punish players that are even just accused of stuff like this.
Right. Yeah.
So you might be sitting there with Deshaun Watson, and he very well could be completely innocent in all this, and the legal process takes a long time to drag out. These lawsuits usually don't come quickly and end quickly. They take a lot of time. A perfect example is if you go back and look at what Ezekiel Elliott was going through just a few years ago, right? When he was a perfect example, because he was accused of that domestic violence, and whenever he was suspended immediately, they were still figuring things out. He ended up giving up his appeal, and it was, I think 6 games is what he ended up serving there in that suspension. So you could very well have Deshaun Watson suspended for a while too, because of this, simply because of the allegations and because of how the conduct policy is structured in the NFL. And that, to me, is I believe, unfair, because while he could be guilty, like we talked about, he could also not be guilty. He could be sitting there this whole time, and this is a point in his career where he needs to be out there on the football field, and it's starting to make a little bit more sense of why if you're the Texans, why you latched on to Tyrod Taylor. Because they grab him immediately. We talked about it the other day. And then what do you know? He's thrown out there in the report of the domestic, or the sexual assault, I should say, with Deshaun Watson. So now if you're the Texans, you have Tyrod Taylor as insurance for multiple different reasons now. And I thought that, honestly, Zach, that the Texans ended up as a team there, and a franchise, probably coming out the best on all this, believe it or not, because they were able to do that. When they got Tyrod Taylor, and if we were still talking simply about football, then it's basically, all right, that's our insurance if Deshaun does actually end up sitting out. If he comes out here and says, I'm not going to play, well, guess what? We've got a quarterback that we know is not as talented as Deshaun Watson by any means, but you know what? He's a quarterback that's been there before. By this time, he's considered a veteran, so we're going to basically take our chances, see what happens when we throw him out there. But then you add this into it as well, and now it's, not only is it insurance for if he doesn't play because of his own choice, it's because if the league says he's not going to play, we have to have somebody out there. So Deshaun Watson himself, personally, is actually really in a tough situation, a tough spot right now. Of course, he's denied all of these claims. He at least did the first one. Actually, I haven't seen any response yet to the other ones. But he did deny immediately that first claim, said he'd never done anything like that. Now, these new claims that were put out by the lawyer were much more detailed and much more graphic. So that's kind of where you run into possibly more issues, and this is all going to really drag out, I think. And it's just fair, I think, to question the timing because his name had been thrown into the news all over this offseason from the second the season ended last year. He's the biggest story in the NFL. What's he going to do? What team's he going to land on? Then all of a sudden this comes out of nowhere, and you just keep adding to it because you have apparently multiple accusers coming out here too. So we're going to see. I think this is a mess, obviously, for Deshaun Watson and any team that was interested in him too, Zach, because I would have to think that some of these teams are, at least for the moment, backing off. And it's not like they have a ton of time to wait necessarily to figure out what they want to do with Deshaun Watson. And he may have been on the radar for a lot of these teams, and who knows, we may have been hearing something in the upcoming days about where he was going to land, and he might have had a deal ready in place and for a team that he thought he was going to succeed on. And I would have to think if that's the case, it's very possible that team is at least shying away for the moment.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And you brought up Tyrod Taylor, and that's actually really interesting because the announcement that they had signed him came after the first allegation came out. It is very possible that the Texans knew, like, okay, well, yeah, he has one allegation against him, but it's possible that they could have known that more were coming out, because that's happened in the past. You kind of get a heads up, like, hey, this is coming down the pipe. We might, you might want to do something about it. So while they needed a backup quarterback, it kind of came at an inopportune time to go out and get another quarterback because, like you said, he is nowhere near as talented as Deshaun Watson, but he's serviceable enough. He's a veteran quarterback. He knows the league. He's talented enough that he can go out there and he can get you some wins. And so, as of right now, I mean, I think it's safe to say that Tyrod Taylor, at least on March 18th, very possibly could be the starting quarterback come that first game. Whether whether the allegations prove true or not. I mean, just last week we're talking about Deshaun Watson setting out. If he can't, if he's not happy enough, if the Texans aren't gonna be willing to trade him or go out and get anybody else. So it's very possible we see Tyrod Taylor as that starting quarterback.
Yeah, and as a team that if their goal is to win, I mean, this is basically another bridge quarterback situation because if it does happen to where Deshaun Watson is not available, whether he goes to another team or whether he's suspended for however long and all this stuff, and if he even gets to come back or when he comes back, will he even play, all that, you kind of have a guy that can maybe bridge for a little bit. But we all know Tyrod Taylor's lacking in any type of real efficient talent for 17 games. I mean, look what happened when he got knocked out of the last year with the Chargers, right? It was like a huge blessing in disguise there because he had Justin Herbert who was just waiting in the wings, and Tyrod Taylor is basically just counting the snaps at this point. So I really never believed in him. I think the Texans, if they're being honest, don't long-term either. It's just kind of one of those bridge situations. But, yeah, what a mess.
You look at Deshaun Watson, he's a top 5 quarterback in the NFL. I mean, there aren't many quarterbacks that you can go out and sign that would bridge the gap if Deshaun Watson couldn't play. You're looking at certainly less than 10 quarterbacks that would be able to do anything near what Deshaun Watson can do for you.
Yeah, and he's not even, when I say bridge it, it's basically just you're throwing him out
for
there
sure.
to to just kind of hold the line for the moment.
Make sure we don't lose more than we win.
Right, and that's still, even that is probably asking too much, honestly,
for sure.
Because there's not a ton of weapons on this squad, as we know. And I think that if Deshaun Watson is either suspended or if he does, in fact, leave or whatever, then you're nearing a rebuild mode if you're the Houston Texans, which is obviously the last thing any team wants, especially in that division right now. Let's go to the phone lines real quick. Caller, you're on the afternoon sports drive. Go ahead.
So I'm assuming the Texans aren't asking for 4 first-round picks and your 5 best defensive players for him now?
All of a sudden, whatever price was given earlier that was nowhere near that, they're like, hey, wait a minute, guys, come back. We might want to deal something.
They're gonna add an or best offer to the end of that. Or, whatever you guys want to give is fine. That works.
Well, there was a GM someplace that was offering like 2 or 3 first-round picks and a couple of players, and right now he's like, "Whew, glad they didn't take that at this point." But remember, the other side of that, there was that, I think it was a running back at OU that lady was like, oh, he posted me up in the library or whatever, and then found out later on, for whatever reason, she just, admitted she was completely lying about it, and that's a lot of damage done to a young man. And now I will say, if it's multiple women coming forward, that does change things. You guys are definitely right. Anyway, I just said all these negotiations that have been going on now, it's like everybody's just stepping back. But thanks a lot, guys.
Well, and appreciate the call. If you're the Texans, though, are you sitting there like now with one like he just mentioned, and it's what we brought up, with multiple women, it obviously changes the playing field. Now, it is certainly possible that it all could still be fake. He may come out of this, innocent. But if you're the Texans, are you sitting there thinking like, man, maybe we should have explored some options. Maybe take some flyers out on Watson from other teams.
Yeah, but only if they had like a ridiculous offer, like what was offered we saw with the Bears with Russell Wilson, right? If it was something like that, maybe you would have given it a thought. But they were really content, at least from what they put out in the media, that they were not going to move him.
And that's what and that's what I'm saying. They didn't,
right.
They weren't willing to entertain offers. So no, we don't know. Chicago might have been willing to insane amount of draft picks and defensive players, and maybe same thing with the Jets or whoever else is needing a quarterback.
Yeah, man, and I will say this, like, if
a lot
it
of what
is,
ifs.
and right, absolutely, and it was the one thing you didn't plan for as a franchise, right? You planned for him potentially sitting out. You never probably planned for any type of allegations coming across of sexual assault, especially multiple ones. But I will say this, it's like that caller said, if it is one of those situations where it's just coming out of nowhere and it is just a situation where you're seeking money and a large amount of it, those people that bring up false accusations, men or women, they should be fully prosecuted, full extent of the law to me, because that's one of those, like the caller said, when your name is dragged through the mud like that, as high profile as you are, it's hard to reverse that. So if that's the case, then I would feel for Deshaun Watson. If it's the other way around and all this is true, then that's disgusting, and he should be obviously prosecuted as full to the extent of the law as possible. So just has something we have to watch play out, no doubt. I think this is the last thing the Texans wanted to have to deal with everything that's gone on, man. If you look at the timeline, from the last real success they had in the playoffs going into that game with Kansas City until now, it's really unbelievable. You want to talk about getting a documentary crew together to make a classic film. Go behind the scenes of all that and see what you can dig up, because that's just been the overall collapse of that franchise in the short amount of time that it has happened. Is truly remarkable when you look at the overall landscape of it.
Well, two things here.
Ahead.
One, this all started after they got rid of Brandon Weeden, so we know we know the initiation of the downfall, right?
Oh yeah.
And two, has this all but cemented Hard Knocks going back to Houston? Because my goodness,
might as well. They might as well set up camp there, every season. Yeah, say, well, we already did the Raiders and we got all their mess. Let's go back to Houston. Let's make sure we document everything there. But yeah, it's one of those where I think too, if you're Tyrod Taylor, there's not as much pressure, because you're never going to fill the shoes of Deshaun Watson. But he's just not the answer, man, as we know. So it's one of those teams that I think is quickly fading from relevancy, really, really fast right before our eyes, something that a lot of people maybe didn't see coming. Like I said a couple seasons ago when they had beaten Buffalo, were heading into Kansas City, had a really solid lead, looked like they were one of the most dangerous teams in the playoffs at that point. When we come back here on the afternoon sports drive, we will talk to Damian Sordelet out of the News in Advance there in Lynchburg, Virginia. He's going to give us an update on everything going on with Liberty. He's actually headed to Indianapolis to cover the tournament and the game with Oklahoma State, so he'll give us some insight on what to expect from the Liberty Flames. That's coming up. This is the Afternoon Sports Drive.
Oh, screaming out at the top of my lungs, tell the world that I found the one. Oh, my baby's hotter than the golden sun. You make my heart beat like a bass drum. Listen to me now.
back into the afternoon sports drive on the Triple Play Sports Radio Network. Patrick Wheeler and Zach Lancaster live with you. I'm over here at Exchange Bank. Make sure you come check them out for all your banking needs. And joining us now out of the News in Advance over there covers Liberty, the Liberty Flames. Damian Sordelet is joining us. Damian, thanks so much for your time. Appreciate you taking some out to talk with us. Are you on your way to Indianapolis right now?
Yeah, I'm actually just south of Dayton right now, heading that way. So hopefully we'll be there in a couple of hours, and looking forward to tomorrow night's game between the Cowboys and the Flames.
Man, how great is it to just be able to be back covering NCAA tournament basketball with the way it was ripped away from all of us last year?
Oh, yeah, I was already making my plans to go with Liberty wherever the Flames were going to be selected to go for the tournament last year, because Liberty had already locked up the automatic bid out of the ASUN Conference because the championship game was held on March 8th of last year. Won it at home over Lipscomb, and then we know what happened. March 11th, Rudy Gobert from the Utah Jazz was revealed tested positive, and then the next day is when Richie McKay gathered the players together and said, the season's over. The NCAA tournament's canceled. And the guys that are returned, boy, they had a lot of motivation to get back to where they were, because they felt there was unfinished business. And a 23-5 record, third straight ASUN regular season and tournament title. They're back where they want to be, and facing probably one of the hottest teams in the nation in Oklahoma State.
Yeah, no doubt. That was one of my questions I was going to ask, because I remember looking at last year for them, and they had that automatic bid, and I had to be thinking, man, they were just like every other team in the country, but still, when they get a chance to get back into the tournament like that, and then it didn't even happen, I can only imagine that it was immediate heartbreak like everybody else, but the mindset of we're going to be right back here, and look at them, they're doing this again, and like you said, they draw Oklahoma State out of all teams. And I wanted to, before we get too deep into it, with the seeding and everything, kind of give us a bit of a rundown of the season for Liberty, if you can, kind of how they got here and maybe what you expect moving forward.
Yeah, Liberty opened the season playing 5 of its first 7 games against power conference opponents. They opened in the Space Coast Challenge playing Purdue and Mississippi State. Went 1-1 in those games with a win over MSU. Then they went to Kansas City to play in the Hall of Fame Classic, because the NCAA allowed for multiple entries into multi-team tournaments. So Liberty then was able to play South Carolina and TCU. Went 1-1 in those games, opened with a win over South Carolina, and then lost a hard-fought battle to TCU. And then the 5th game against Power 5 opponent came against Missouri on the road in Columbia. And that was a game Liberty led at halftime, and then Missouri's depth and athleticism eventually wore them down, and they won by 9. But and Liberty has done what it should do during league play. Lost a couple early on the road to Lipscomb and to Stetson, but then reeled off 12 straight wins. They've shot the ball extremely well, and they play that pack line defense that has become synonymous with what you hear with Virginia. And Liberty's considered Virginia light, and this year they ranked 3rd in the nation in points allowed per game, and that's something that's really carried them throughout this year and gotten them back to the NCAA tournament for the 3rd straight year. And just to put in perspective, Liberty became a Division I program in 1988, and between 1988 and 2018, they had 3 NCAA tournament appearances total. In the last 3 years, they've had 3 straight NCAA tournament appearances. So, what Richie McKay has done in building that program there has really helped accelerate the growth of getting this program back from a once every decade NCAA tournament team to a perennial contender, make it to the big dance.
We're talking to Damian Sordelet here on the afternoon sports drive. You mentioned there the pack line defense. That's been something that has been brought up a ton with this team, obviously one of their identities. And you mentioned there the relation with it with Virginia. Can you kind of explain that to maybe some of the listeners that have heard that term a bunch here, but they still may not quite understand what to expect from that?
Yeah, the pack line defense is something that Tony Bennett brought to Virginia when he was at Washington State, and when he took the position at UVA, one of the first people he reached out to was Richie McKay to say, hey, I want you to come and be, my associate head coach. And that was a big step for McKay to go from, being a head coach at multiple stops to taking a step back. And, the defense is predicated on packing itself in the lane, and, you give up deep threes, but the premise is you prevent straight line drives to the basket and, easy looks around the rim. And that's something that Liberty's found as a strength within these past couple of years, is they allow very few straight line drives to the basket. And they're very sound in terms of help defense, whether it be in post traps, whether it be help, on drivers to the basket and whatnot. So that's something that, it's taken some time for the group to get used to and to become acclimated with the daily routines that you need to do in order to be successful with it. And that's something that, in year 6, we're seeing, the fruits of all those seeds that have been planted, and you're seeing sustained success, kind of what you see similar with UVA.
Yeah, and when you look at Oklahoma State offensively, obviously they have multiple guys that love to take those line drives, straight drives to the basket there. Is this one of those games where, from what we know, what you know about Oklahoma State offensively, that maybe one of the tougher challenges for Liberty in terms of stopping some of that penetration? Because, like I said, you got so many guys on this Cowboys squad that really love to get off the dribble and head to the hoop.
Yeah, this will be undoubtedly Liberty's toughest task of the year, because the one thing that Richie McKay has said over the years, if teams have a great shooting night, really there's nothing you can do to stop that. If teams have certain actions that beat you, especially off the ball, backdoor cuts, stuff like that, it's in their offense, and you know what, they just out-executed you. But the one thing that has really got under his skin is when teams are able to get those straight line drives, and it's coming if you're Liberty, but you're just unable to stop it. And that's something that's really frustrated him over the years, that he wants to make sure that doesn't happen. And sometimes, the game plan is you stop it, and then other times is you just can't do it, and teams go to the free throw line quite a bit. They're able to get easy finishes at the rim. And that's something that, he's probably been stressing all week, is because that's the premise of the pack line. You don't allow the defense to get pierced and, and deflated. And, the longer Oklahoma State is able to find success, dribble drives to the basket, put your head down, get to the free throw line, the longer it's going to be for Liberty Friday night.
Talking to Damian Sortela here from the News Advance covering Liberty here on the afternoon sports drive. So you mentioned their identity there defensively, and it's a squad that doesn't turn the ball over a ton. What would you say maybe this team's identity is on the offensive side of the ball? Do they keep it quick? Do they like to run their sets? How do they do it?
Yeah, they're methodical. If you look at the Ken Palm adjusted tempos, Oklahoma State is undoubtedly near the top, because they average about 15.8 seconds per possession. And then if you're looking at that, you have to keep scrolling down, and then you find Liberty in the bottom third. Liberty averages about 22 seconds per possession, and they usually value the shots, which means they're not going to drain the shot clock all the way down and then hoist up a shot. They're going to work the defense. They're going to try to ball movement, screens, backdoor cuts. They're going to try to find ways to pick apart your defense. And that's you hear these coaches that have played Liberty, they say they're efficient. They're going to work until they find the weakness in the defense. And sometimes that might be instantaneous, where you have guys collapse on a three-point shooter who kicks it around and gets a wide-open shot for a teammate. Or it could be they work the shot clock, and then you dump it into the post to a Blake Preston or a Shiloh Robinson. Defense collapse. They're able to kick it out, then a swing pass, and then you got an open shot. That's what Liberty does. And, Liberty's one of only 3 teams in the NCAA tournament, that Baylor and Oral Roberts are the other 2, that are top 10 in the nation in three-point field goal attempts and three-point field goal percentage. And so in Liberty's also in offensive efficiency was the highest rated in the ASUN conference, and their offensive efficiency is one of the better ones in the nation. So Liberty might have a slower tempo, but they try to be as efficient as possible with as few of possessions as they get. And that's something that, it wasn't the case when Richie McKay first got there, but in terms of recruiting the likes of a Darius McGee, getting, Chris Parker, the transfer from Division II Henderson State, and then you throw in a Keegan McDowell off the bench. I mentioned Shiloh Robinson, who's a sophomore who's evolved, a Kyle Rode, who his teammates called the offensive coordinator of the team because of how he glues things together through his position there at a power forward. So they have the pieces there that they know how to play efficiently on offense, and I think it's really going to come down to how well they play defense against Oklahoma State.
Well, and with that offensive style right there, and have you seen that this season frustrate teams that like to play fast, just generally even on defense, like to move around real quick, where they're over there waiting for a shot to get put up, and all of a sudden it's deep into a shot clock, and they're having to switch and do all that stuff. Essentially, what an OSU defense will bring to the table. Have you seen that frustrate other squads this year?
Yeah, absolutely. It's very frustrating, especially if you feel like you've played defense really well for 15 to 20 seconds, and then all of a sudden there's just one little hiccup in what you're doing defensively, and Liberty exploits it, and then all of a sudden you feel like, oh man, we just exerted this energy, we played great for most of the shot clock, and then all of a sudden, bang, Liberty gets an open three and converts it, or gets a backdoor cut for an easy layup. That's something that has frustrated teams this year, and Derek Johnston, the assistant coach, who basically has engineered this offense from last year's team to this year's team with more motion, more cuts, more screens than they had in previous years. It is very frustrating, especially if you're on defense and you feel like you've done really well for 2/3 of the shot clock, and then all of a sudden, bang, Liberty's able to find something to exploit.
And you mentioned Darius McGee there. He's obviously certainly one of those names that pops up immediately when you talk about Liberty, when you look at Liberty. So maybe give Oklahoma State fans a little bit of the taste of what he's going to bring to the floor, how big of an issue he might be for Oklahoma State defensively.
Yeah, at first glance, if you look at Darius McGee, he's listed at 5'9" and 165 pounds, and he plays off guard. He's not the point guard on the team, and you would think, he's small, we ought to be able to contain him. However, he's got a 48-inch vertical, and he's got one of the quickest releases I've seen from any player, and he's got a green light that is in the Steph Curry, Damian Lillard range. I mean, every time they cross half court, if he's got an open look from three or anywhere, he has the freedom to take those shots. And that's something that, you really can't defend, because you might think he might be driving to the basket, give him a little space, and then he just pops up and shoots. And we've seen at the end of the regular season, he went on this stretch where he was averaging about 25 points per game, shooting 55% from three, and he really carried Liberty to the regular season ASUN title. And he's got a dynamic about him where he'd rather share the ball with a teammate first, but he knows when he has to take over, and he's that guy that, as the season progressed, they identified him as the guy who could take games over. And he's someone that, if he gets lost, and especially the way the offense works, and him being able to run around without the ball and utilize screens and cuts and all that stuff to get open, he gets into a rhythm, that could be a problem for Oklahoma State.
That's the voice of Damian Sordeled from News Advance joining us here on the afternoon sports drive. All right, so who has the assignment on this Liberty team of guarding Cade Cunningham, or is it going to be multiple guys?
It'll probably be multiple guys, but I think the primary guy you'll see on him is Elijah Cuffey, the 6'4", 190-pound senior who is the ASUN Defensive Player of the Year. He's arguably been Liberty's best perimeter defender over the last 2 years since Lavelle Cavell graduated following that 2018-19 season. He's not like a skinny 6'4". He's got a good build to him. He's a lefty. He has no problem defending players that either go to their left or their right. He's very sound in terms of keeping his body square when defending players. And we've seen him over the last couple of years. He has taken out a team's best perimeter offensive player just because he's able to frustrate them with how well he's able to move his feet, keep his body square, and use his quick hands to get some tie-ups and also create some turnovers. I think you'll see a lot of him on there on Cunningham. It wouldn't shock me at all to see a guy like Shiloh Robinson, who I've alluded to, who's more of a post player in this offense but has the athleticism to guard a perimeter player. If you want to put a little bit bigger of a body on a Cunningham, you could put Robinson out there. He's got the lateral movement to stay in front of Cunningham for a good bit of time. I wouldn't see extended minutes of him guarding Cunningham, but if you need to switch it up and put a bigger body on him, I would think like a Shiloh Robinson would be the second option to follow Cunningham around and try to limit his production. You're not going to stop him. You're not going to contain him. What you got to do is try to limit what he does offensively and force these other guys to step up. And we've seen those guys step up this year, and which is why Richie McKay has said this is going to be their biggest test of the year, because it's not just Cade Cunningham. It's a slew of guys on this Oklahoma State roster who have the ability to have a great offensive night, score in double figures and be the ones that help carry this team to the second round of the NCAA tournament.
Yeah, their depth has absolutely carried them a long ways this season with what Cade Cunningham does, no doubt. One of the things that we've been harping on this season for OSU that's kind of been a weakness at times has been defensively, them guarding big men down low or in the interior, when they obviously have talent themselves here on this team with Caleb Boone and Matthew Alexander-Moncrief. But is there any advantage that you see for Liberty down there where maybe they can get some points inside?
Blake Preston has the ability to have some success down low. He's one of those quiet guys who he'll go about his business during the game, and then when you look at the box score, he'll have 12 points and 9 rebounds, and you go, wow, where did that come from? But that's the type of production that Liberty's going to need. He doesn't need to be a guy who takes over. He just needs to be a guy who's consistent inside, get a few points, play solid defense, and then that will help out. And a guy who was really strong at the beginning of the year, freshman Makai IB, he was averaging about 13, 14 points a game at the beginning of the year. He was really active, but he's kind of fallen, out of the rotation a bit because of, not playing defense to the level that, Richie McKay wants him to play at. But if he's able to, kind of rekindle that early season form where against these Power 5 opponents, he's actually playing really well. He could provide some really good minutes off the bench, and he's a guy who can stretch the defense because he has the ability to shoot threes. And I think that's a dynamic that if Liberty can tap into his production from the beginning of the year, that will help, Preston, Robinson, not have to carry so much the load down in the perimeter, down in the paint, and give them another viable option.
So give me the full kind of feel how this team is right now in terms of confidence, and maybe how the feel has been around Lynchburg. The same way you guys draw Oklahoma State, you look at it, and people that don't know a ton about them, they could see that as a 4 seed. I'm sure they know the name Cade Cunningham by now. It can probably be overwhelming to teams like that, but how is Liberty feeling from a confidence standpoint that they can get it done?
Oh, Liberty's going into the game thinking it's going to win, and the last few years, you look at we'll look in the last 4 years, they've beaten Wake Forest, Vanderbilt twice, Mississippi State twice, South Carolina. They've beaten some Power 5 opponents. Oklahoma State's going to be another tough task, but it's one that they're not going into thinking, oh, we have no chance. Honestly, Oklahoma State should have probably been like a low 2 or a high 3 seed. Liberty probably should have been, possibly on the 12 seed line.
Sure.
But that's the selection committee elected to put this matchup because arguably it's going to have an appeal to see, if one of the better defensive teams in the nation can stop arguably the number 1 pick in the upcoming NBA draft. And I think this type of game is going to draw a lot of eyeballs because you want to see if this little team called Liberty that generated some national attention a couple of years ago can replicate that against, arguably the nation's best player. Luke Garza from Iowa will probably be the National Player of the Year, and Cunningham will probably finish out being a unanimous first-team All-American and probably the National Freshman of the Year. But this is the type of matchup, people want to see. And I think people in Lynchburg want to see this. They want to see, can Liberty's defense, step up to the occasion. And, if that's the case and Liberty can pull off the upset, that only amplifies the work that Richie McKay has done from taking this team that back in 2013 when it went to the tournament had 20 losses, kept losing 20 games a year, and now they're perennially winning 20 games a year. It would just be another thing to help the brand of Liberty keep making a step forward.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up because there were two teams that I had thought as well that were probably underseeded, and I think they felt the same way. Like you talked about, OSU probably should have been a 3 for sure, and Liberty, I remember reading about that some people thought they should have been a 12, and based off the where they ended up, I could agree with that as well. Last thing here for you before I let you go, overall in this field, when you're filling out your bracket, when you take a look at it, who do you like maybe as the overall favorite? Is it Gonzaga for you, or do you like somebody else?
I've always fallen into the trap of thinking, okay, the best team's going to win. But I think Gonzaga is going to get tripped up somewhere, whether it be, here in the first couple rounds or in the Final Four. I got a feeling like if Oklahoma State can get through the first round and then can get to the Sweet 16, I think the bracket shapes up fairly well for the Cowboys to make a run. And for some reason, I like Baylor a lot, even though Baylor has struggled recently and, just lost to Oklahoma State. I think Baylor's got a team that could get there. And, it wouldn't surprise me if we saw multiple Big 12 teams get in there because I think the Big 12 silently was arguably one of the better conferences in the nation this year. I know the Big 10 got a lot of attention, but I think the Big 12, just based on how many teams were ranked, how many teams received really good seeds. I think the Big 12 is going to have a good showing this year, and it wouldn't surprise me to see, a Baylor get to the title game or, Oklahoma State actually make a deep run and get to the Final Four. So, I know everyone jokingly says take Gonzaga or the field. Well, I'd take the field just because I think there's enough depth there that someone's going to get Gonzaga on a bad shooting night, and that's all it takes in this tournament is just one bad night where things aren't clicking to where, all of a sudden your season's over.
Yeah, I like that pick as well. You can follow him on Twitter at Damian Sordeled. That's at Damian Sordeled. Damian, thanks so much for your time. Safe travels to Indianapolis. Appreciate it.
I appreciate you guys having me on. Look forward to hopefully a good game tomorrow night.
Yes, sir. Absolutely. Good luck for Liberty, and we'll talk to you later. Have a good one, man. Appreciate it.
I appreciate you guys.
All right, that's Damian Sordeled, again, on Twitter, at Damian Sordeled, out of the News Advance there, covers Liberty in Lynchburg, Virginia. Appreciate him. That's good stuff right there. He basically said what we've been talking about. This is going to be a pace game right here. Whoever dictates it's going to win this ball game. So we'll get more into that coming up. We're actually going to take a look at some of our picks coming up, too, in our bracket that Zach and I have ready to go. And we'll get into a little bit more craziness going on in the NFL and free agency as it just continues to be a wild roller coaster. All still to come here on the Afternoon Sports Drive.
Whoa. Staring as I go, I gave until my soul hurt, never told them so. They're watching as I fall, somewhere down below.
Welcome back into the Afternoon Sports Drive on the Triple Play Sports Radio Network. Patrick Wheeler and Zach Lancaster. I'm live over here at Exchange Bank 4301 West 6th in Stillwater. Mobile deposit's a big thing they offer over here. If there's ever a reason you can't make it to the bank, you can still deposit your checks right from your phone. Just snap a picture, submit your deposit through their mobile banking app. It's really that simple. You get your check, you say, I don't have time to make it over to the bank, no big deal. Take a picture, submit it, and it's right in your account just like that, as easy as it gets. All right, so yesterday, Zach, it was funny because one of the buy or sells I threw out there to Levi and Tom, right, which made it even better because I love throwing Tom an NFL buy or sell because he never has much to say. But when I did that, I said buy or sell that we see Mitch Trubisky, we see Andy Dalton, and we see Nick Foles all start a game for the Bears next season. And Levi and I are both like, no, sell, because Mitch Trubisky is on his way out, and that was official today. So you had Andy Dalton in with the Bears, and then you have Mitch Trubisky, who is now heading over to the Buffalo Bills. And Zach, as I like to say here, he is officially beginning his career as a backup. And it begins with the Buffalo Bills, where he will only ever come in when Josh Allen has the Bills up by 40 or something like that. Then we will occasionally see it. But I'm telling you right now, I know that there's people out there that still desperately try to defend Mitch Trubisky, and he wasn't given a chance, and he just hasn't had the right weapons, and the offensive line hasn't been great, and you go down the list of excuses. But I'm telling you right now, he belongs in a backup role, a guy that can come in very desperate times when needed or in a blowout, anything like that. But still, to me, if Josh Allen were to go down with an injury, and I'm a Buffalo Bills fan, it's almost, maybe not quite, but it's almost to the point where it was last year with Kansas City when Mahomes went down and Chad Henne was the backup. It was like, oh my gosh, they still have a talented team, but look who's our quarterback now, and it's a complete downgrade. But he's officially the newest Buffalo Bill.
And I don't know how we make it out when we make that on the low. Even if it rains, you'd rather make it snow. Both you and me know we gotta let it go. Laying on the ground, wondering why it's so cold. How we make it out when we make out on the low. Even if it rains, you'd rather make it snow. Both you and me know we gotta let it go. Laying on the ground, wondering why it's so cold. Why you so ice cold? My tears
Welcome back into the
can't drip.
afternoon sports drive on the Triple Play Sports Radio Network. Patrick Wheeler and Zach Lancaster. I'm live over here at Exchange Bank and Trust, 4301 West 6th. You have the ability to make decisions locally and quickly when the need arises. They don't have to go through a large bank located in another town. Over here, it's straightforward, and it's going to be done quickly at Exchange Bank. They make decisions regarding your finances quickly and efficiently right here in Stillwater, and easy accessibility to loan officers. You can come walk straight into the bank. You can walk out with a loan decision on most personal loans in the same day. It's becoming harder to come by in banking, but they strive to help their customers in the quickest way possible. So make sure you come check them out over here, 4301 West 6th, Exchange Bank and Trust. All right, so usually around this time we do buy or sell. We're going to dive into our brackets here first and take a look at what we've got going on here so far, because we're just a day away before the official brackets lock up with the play-in games, 5 minutes away from the first one getting underway today. And so we'll take a look at some of these, Zach, and see where we agree and where we disagree for these play-in games. So I think obviously Gonzaga is a solid push forward for probably both of us, unless you're over there going with the 16-1 upset and you've got Appalachian State just dominating or something.
Yeah, as much as I love a good 16-1 upset, with how good Gonzaga is, I don't know if I'm that confident.
Come on, you're a confident guy, man. That's kind of disappointing.
Yeah, that's a little too much for me though.
Man, okay, I can understand that. One of the next ones that I thought had a lot of really big interest right underneath that I pointed out to you the other day was Oklahoma and Missouri. This was a game that I think was going to be pretty down to the wire, probably about 50-50 for people picking, but I have to believe that has shifted now with Davion Harmon officially out after testing positive for COVID, so he's going to miss the first two games, it looks like, for Oklahoma if they were to advance past Mizzou. Let me ask you this. Before that news, were you going with Oklahoma or Mizzou, and has that changed for you?
Man, I don't know. 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 I It's really tough because I had Missouri winning no matter what, but it was because Oklahoma, the way they finished the season, and they just really fell off the last month and a half. So I had Missouri winning to begin with, but I don't think it'll be close now. I think Davion Harmon gave OU such a boost that it was possible that they could have beaten Missouri. But without Harmon, I don't see it. I suppose it's possible, but I don't see that happening.
Yeah, they could do the whole let's rally behind our guy type thing, but man, he's such a big part of what that team does.
Mm-hmm.
I just don't. And Mizzou is really talented this year. They really are. They've been up and down at times, and they've let a lot of leads slip away from them at times this season. That's kind of been one of their issues, is the ability to finish out games. But I think they just got a big boost. So I'm going with Mizzou as well right there to face Gonzaga. That would be 1-9 after that. Creighton, UCSB. Now, you told me over here a couple days ago that you were looking at this as a possible 5-12 upset. Is that correct? Are you still sticking with that?
Yeah, I've got the Gauchos. I think they're pretty dangerous. I'm going with UCSB.
Okay, he's clicking there on your 12-5. I'm going with Creighton. I believe in them as a tournament team at least for one game, and I promise you I've got 5-12s coming up, but it's not that one. Virginia and Ohio. Now, not only is this a really talented Virginia team here, Zach, but since they've been dealing with COVID and since they've kind of had that extra stretch of rest here, they're just going to be as close to 100% in terms of rest and everything that any team in this tournament is.
Yeah, I've got Virginia. I mean, I think I like Ohio, but I mean, with what Virginia's gone through, I mean, they're still a talented team. So with the extra rest, yeah, I don't see how there's certainly not going to be any 4-13 upset there.
Yeah. And the next one, you got one of these playing games with Wichita State and Drake that's going on today, taking on the 6th seed USC. Any of those with those two teams in Wichita State or Drake? Do they push past that round for you, or are you going with the Trojans?
Yeah, probably going to go with USC. I mean, the extra game, trying to playing into the tournament, I think is really gonna affect them. Maybe if there wasn't a play-in game there and Wichita State or Drake had actually made the tournament, then maybe. But I like the Trojans.
I'm actually going with Wichita State or Drake. Whichever one advances. I like them getting past USC. Now I think it's going to be Wichita State that gets it done. There's not a ton of just get ready. There's not a ton of pure analysis coming with this. This is just one of those that I think could have the potential to be a team in this playing game that moves on. So I'm going with the winner, Wichita State. Drake, Kansas, and was that Eastern Washington? I think that's who that was.
Yeah.
Kansas, in Eastern Washington. This one, again, in terms of rest, we talked about it the other day when Kansas got knocked out of the Big 12 tournament. Well, guess what? They're going to be fully ready to go.
Absolutely. Yeah. They're not a normal Kansas team, but they're good enough to get past Eastern Washington in the first round.
Yeah, I would think so for sure. 7-10, this is an interesting matchup, Oregon and VCU. Who do you got?
I'm going to go with the higher seed, Oregon. I like their chances this year in the tournament. I think they're a more well-rounded team.
I actually went with the Rams with VCU at the 10 spot. And Oregon, I believe that's the team, they came in there. They lost to Oregon State there in the Pac-12 and showed some weaknesses in that game. So I'm pushing VCU over here. Iowa and Grand Canyon, barring that Grand Canyon doesn't have to leave early and end in a tie because of travel restrictions. Who are you going with?
Yeah, I think I'm going to have to go with Iowa. I'm afraid that the time constraints is just going to be weighing too heavily on Grand Canyon. So
did you appreciate that shade I threw in there?
I did. That was quite nice.
Okay, good, because it's never going to go away from me. Grand Canyon, how could they? Michigan in the winner of Mount St. Mary's, Texas Southern. Look, this is a really talented Michigan team, but with Livers still being questionable right now for them, they haven't really disclosed when or if he'll be available for the tournament, and he's so big with what they do with that squad. I think that a lot of teams might not be pushing them as far, but I would think that even with that, they're going to get this one done. And in 116, I'm assuming you're still sticking with the 1 seed here.
Yeah, absolutely. No more upsets here.
No more upsets. Okay, LSU and Bonaventure. Ooh.
I'm going with the Bonnies.
That one? Oh.
I'm going with the Bonnies. Yeah, I like that.
No trust in the LSU basketball team?
No, I like that. I like that 9 over the 8.
Okay, I went with LSU in that one, and that could certainly be one that's an 8-9 upset. Okay, 5-12. This is mine that I was telling you about. I
Yeah.
mentioned earlier this season. I'm going with Georgetown. I think they can get it done over Colorado. I don't believe the magic is quite over for Patrick Ewing.
Yeah, same. I like. I mean, I know they're 13-12 on the season, but I like the way they ended that. I like the way they ended their Big East run there. So yeah, I'm going with Georgetown.
Florida State and UNC Greensboro. As much as I've actually seen a little bit of this UNC Greensboro team this year, and I think they have some talent on this squad. Florida State is actually, they're just so deep. I know a lot of people have them even pushing Final Four, so they're an easy pick right there.
Yeah, same.
Okay, this is one I told you about, that I'm not going with BYU in this one. I'm going with the winner of Michigan State UCLA. To advance. So is that my second 11? Yeah, it is. I've got USC and BYU both going down to a play-in team here, but this is a little different now. I know Michigan State and UCLA haven't had the same seasons we're accustomed to, but they're coming into this one, and we know what they typically do in the tournament when they do get a chance, and there's certainly been bigger surprises before. So I'm going with the winner of that one.
Yeah, this is what I was saying earlier. This is where that experience comes into play. I'll take either Michigan State or UCLA. Whichever team wins that is going to knock off BYU.
They play at 8:57 this evening, so we'll know the winner of that one. Texas and ACU. Texas, man, I know we saw them. They took down Oklahoma State there in the Big 12 title game, and we've seen good and bad with this Texas squad. They're sitting there at a 3 seed, Zach, and I really, this year I've had a lot of confidence in this squad, and that was really from the beginning to where they are now. I think they're one of the most talented teams in the field, and have a really good shot at making a run this year.
Yeah, as much as Abilene Christian wants to knock off the in-state powerhouse, ain't gonna happen. Not in the first round. Sorry.
UConn Huskies and the Maryland Terps, 7-10. I've got UConn moving on. UConn and the NCAA tournament go together like peanut butter and jelly to me.
Yeah, and I would have to think that I'm gonna go like a 4-year-old here, and a dog can easily kill a turtle. So. Good luck,
boy.
Maryland.
Zach is now going strictly to the mascots. Oh,
Good
my
luck.
goodness. We got to get through this thing. If he's going strictly to the mascots. Okay, how about the Alabama, the Crimson Tide and their elephants over there with I don't even know what the Iona mascot is.
What is Iona? Let's see what that is.
Know.
Iona mascot.
Let's just call them the Rick Pittinos. How about that?
A Killian. Oh, they're the Gales. It's like an Irish thing, I think. I don't know. Catholic, excuse me.
Catholic, there you go. It's really cool what Rick Pitino's done, I mean, we obviously remember everything that went on with him at Louisville, but the fact that he's back and coaching, he's got a team in the NCAA tournament again for the fifth different team I think he's brought to the NCAA tournament, which is just incredible. But I'm going with Bama, man. To me, they're a well-deserved 2 seed. They are actually, I know a lot of people are like, Alabama basketball? Yeah, no, they're really talented this year.
Yeah, they're super solid. I'm going with them.
Baylor over Hartford, not even close. That one should be over before it even starts.
Yeah. As much as I would love a 16-1 upset here, it's Baylor.
North Carolina, Wisconsin, and I've told you over and over, this North Carolina team, it really just depends on what they get out of their guards, because their big men are going to usually dominate any other big men that they come across. And offensively, on the offensive boards has been the big story for them again this year. They've led the country in that category. They get so many second chances. The only problem, again, is if they had anybody from outside that was actually really good at shooting the basketball, they'd be a much higher seed. But they take on a number 9 Wisconsin squad, which we know is always dangerous. I think this has actually been somewhat of a 50-50 pick this year for a lot of people. I'm going with my Tar Heels. Who do you got?
I'm going Wisconsin.
Oh, okay. I hope that comes back to bite you. I really do.
It won't, but it's okay.
Oh, it won't. Yeah, they play. I think they're the next game to tip off. I'm correct, right after Oklahoma State tomorrow night. So I'm gonna have like 2 TVs going. It's gonna be amazing. Can't wait. Nova and Winthrop 5 versus 12. Is this another upset here? Or are you going with Nova?
Yeah, I'm going with Nova.
Yeah, I'm doing the exact same thing. Purdue and North Texas. Ooh, yeah, I'm definitely going with Purdue in this. We see a Villanova-Purdue matchup. Those 2 teams just scream college basketball.
Absolutely, yeah. North Texas, man, they ended hot, but I'm sorry, it's got to be Purdue.
6-11 Texas Tech out of the Big 12, Utah State. We've seen a couple of different Texas Tech teams this year. I thought they were really getting down into that category, like I told you about, of a one-trick pony type deal, where if Mac McClung's not on, then it's going to be a tough time, but it should be enough to beat Utah State.
Yeah, they've had a lot of rest the past couple weeks, so I'll go Texas Tech.
Arkansas and Colgate. Yeah, the toothpaste college. Do you like the Razorbacks over them?
I do.
Going with them as well?
I think Arkansas is really good.
We saw them. We saw Oklahoma State beat them this year, and they brought some serious talent to that team.
Yeah, and they've only gotten better.
No doubt. Yeah, I know they really have. Eric Musselman's done a fantastic job over there, earning a 3 seed. Florida and Virginia Tech. We saw a little bit of that Florida game the other day against Tennessee. Virginia Tech has been dangerous at times this year. Again in the ACC 7-10. Who do you like?
I'm going upset. I'm going Virginia Tech.
I'm doing the same thing. I like the athletic advantage goes to Virginia Tech in this one, as well as a shooting advantage. 2:15 Ohio State and Oral Roberts down the road in Tulsa. Who do you like?
Yeah, again, I'm super proud of Oral Roberts and what they were able to accomplish, but they're not going to be able to get past Ohio State.
Yeah, it's too tough of a task, no doubt. This one, honestly, I think that if you look at besides Gonzaga and Baylor, might be the other easiest one to ever pick.
Absolutely.
Against Drexel, Illinois is totally advanced.
Absolutely, yeah.
Then this one, right underneath it, a lot of people are like, okay, now what are we going to do here? You got Loyola Chicago and Georgia Tech Tech just lost their defensive player, the ACC Defensive Player of the Year to COVID, and that's a big loss right there as well. We've seen a number of teams already dealing with that. Did that advance Loyola Chicago for you?
Yeah, it did. I had Georgia Tech, but I've had to go back in and switch those out. So I've got Loyola Chicago.
Yeah, I had them anyways. Georgia Tech won the ACC this year, but they didn't have to play Virginia.
It's kind of fluky, wasn't it?
Yeah, you can kind of put an asterisk next to that one if you want. I wouldn't be mad. I like Loyola Chicago. And your favorite person ever, Sister Jean's going to get to come to the tournament, by the way.
Oh, boy.
In case you hadn't seen that. So she's going to be good to go, fully vaccinated. Tennessee or Oregon State in that 5-12.
Yeah, I got Tennessee.
We got a lot of orange coming up here. Like you mentioned, Tennessee, Oregon State. Then you have Oklahoma State and Liberty. I know you're going with Liberty on the upset in this one.
I am not, actually. I think it'll be tough. I think this is going to be one of those, down to the final 3 to 4 minutes of the game, and then Cade Cunningham and Avery Anderson are going to kind of step it up a little bit, and they'll pull away late.
Everyone's going to hate me, Zach. Everyone is going to hate me. But I'm going to go with I'm just kidding. I'm just to put the phones down. Don't call into the station. I was about to say,
my goodness.
Don't unplug me. Don't call into the station. Of course, I'm going with Oklahoma State. It was interesting there. You listen to what Damian told us, and he believes it's going to be dictated on pace, and I think he's exactly right. Because when I threw him that question about Oklahoma State when it comes to what they like to do defensively, and we know they can settle down defensively, but they're such a fast team overall, Zach, that when it comes to that side of the ball, they still like to move so quick around and try to get stops and get turnovers that you could see a little bit until maybe they feel it out. You could see that Liberty offense maybe kind of just, like we talked about, frustrating them a little bit because they move the ball so methodically and they wait until they get their shot.
Yeah, what did Boynton say? They're like the 5th slowest team in the country.
Yeah.
I like Oklahoma State's pace, and I think that's what's gonna carry them.
Yeah, it's just going to be enough for Liberty to be able to stop that. It really isn't. Okay, San Diego State and Syracuse in the 6-11 matchup underneath that.
I'm going with San Diego State. I think the 6 will get them.
I went with Syracuse. I like what I've seen from them this year, and I actually think that if I'm circling a dark horse, I would make sure and take a look at that Syracuse squad because they can shoot the lights out of it. Buddy Boeheim is one of the most pure shooters I've seen in a long time. No one really knows is this going to be the last year for Jim Boeheim? Will he coach until he's 200 years old? No one really knows, but I think they have a chance to be a dark horse in this tournament. West Virginia sitting there at the 3 seed, taking on Moorhead. I'm assuming you like the West Virginia squad there.
That is correct.
Okay, we'll get them over there in a second. Clemson and Rutgers at 7-10.
I'm going upset. I'm going to go with Rutgers.
Okay, I went with Clemson too, based off what I've seen from them this year. I think they're good for at least advancing one game. Number 2, Houston, who I think is completely overrated, taking on Cleveland State.
Yeah, they might be overrated, but they're good enough to get past Cleveland State.
Yeah, we at least know that much. Gonzaga and Mizzou in the second round. Does Mizzou stand any chance at an upset?
I mean, maybe, but maybe like the first 8 minutes. But after that, Gonzaga's just going to pull away.
That's actually what I was about to say, is that I could see Missouri, like, giving fans hope for, like, 5 or 6 minutes.
Make it
Gonzaga
a game tied up into halftime or something.
Exactly, yeah. Maybe even to half, we're like, hold on, what are we about to do here?
Yeah.
And then, Gonzaga just comes out, shoots the lights out, and wins by 25. So I'm also going with Gonzaga as well. 4-5, Virginia and Creighton. Actually, you went with UCSB, so Virginia UCSB for you.
Yeah, I'm going Gauchos.
You're not.
I'm going another upset, baby.
You're not.
Yeah, 12-4. Yeah, I got the Gauchos playing Gonzaga there.
Oh my goodness, you heard.
Give me the Gauchos, baby.
I think he's lost it. He's going with the Gauchos to beat Virginia.
Well, to be fair, I had 102-degree fever yesterday, and I made my picks
true.
then, so it's a fever pick. But
It's a fever dream pick. That's
sticking
right.
with the Gauchos.
That's crazy, man. Virginia is so good, so balanced. That's the thing, is their defense, which we talked about there. McKay with Liberty, their head coach, is a product of, is just so stifling. And then when they bring offensively, with able to shoot the three, able to get it down low, I mean, it's incredible. They have big guys that can shoot threes. It's unbelievable. I'm definitely going with Virginia. We have Kansas, and then there, I believe, is what you would have. I have Kansas versus Wichita State or Drake, but are we both going with the Jayhawks to advance again?
That would be correct.
Okay, that's what, unfortunately, we both have there. I would love to pick an upset, but not quite. VCU and Iowa for me. You had
I got Oregon,
I believe.
Yeah,
and
I'm sticking with Iowa.
Okay, yeah, Iowa's for sure. So we get a 2-3 matchup with Kansas there on the same. Michigan, and you had
got the Bonnies.
Not LSU, it's Bonnie. Yeah. So who are you going with?
Yeah, as much as I'd love to pick a 9-1 upset there, I got to go with Michigan.
Okay, we'll go Michigan. Georgetown, Florida State, 12-4. As much as I love the story, I think Florida State ends the Cinderella type season there.
Yeah, I mean, I was close. For me, it was like a flip, but I gotta stick with Florida State.
Did you have BYU moving on?
I did not.
Okay, no, we both had the winner of Michigan State, UCLA there. Okay, so that one is up here. Let me make sure I didn't lose my spot here. You've got tell me who it is, Zach.
Michigan State, UCLA, and then Texas.
That's right, Texas game. Oh boy.
I don't even have to struggle here.
That is a struggle.
It's not
actually
for me.
no. It would be Texas. It would be Texas and Alabama is what it would be.
No, because Alabama had Iona, and then I had them advancing against UConn.
Oh, yeah, you're right. I see that there. Okay, so we got Michigan State, UCLA, and Texas, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we both moving on with Texas?
I'm not. I'm picking an upset here. Yeah,
no.
Whether it's UCLA or Michigan State. I mean, Texas looked good against Oklahoma State, but it's just an extra day. I think Texas they're talented, but they're kind of like not one trick pony like Texas Tech, but they're kind of wishy-washy. So
okay.
I don't see them getting out of that round.
All right, if you say so, whatever you say. All right, so we got you had UConn, I had UConn moving on to take on Alabama. Does UConn go any further?
No, they don't.
Okay, I'm with you. I like Bama moving on.
Yeah.
Baylor, North Carolina.
Yeah, Baylor.
I actually looked at this a couple of times, and I think that it goes one of two ways. Baylor
You're
either
such
wipes
a
the floor.
homer.
No, I'm serious. When this game happens, you're going to be like, wow, he knew there. Baylor's going to either wipe the floor or it's going to come down to the wire, and I don't know who wins. I know it sounds like a bomber, I swear, but I got Baylor too. I think they find a way to get past them. Yeah. Villanova, Purdue, 4-5.
Yeah, I got Purdue.
I got Villanova. I got Villanova going. I think that's a pick'em game right there. Texas Tech and Arkansas.
Yeah, this is where that one trick pony comes back to bite Tech. I got Arkansas.
I actually went the other way. I went with the Red Raiders. I think Mac McClung stays hot, and the supporting cast is good enough to get past Arkansas there. That might be one people are shaking their heads at. Virginia Tech and Ohio State.
Yeah, I got Ohio State.
Okay, I do too. Illinois, Loyola, Chicago.
It's the end of Sister Jean's run. It's Illinois.
Oh, poor Sister Jean. I'm going with Illinois too. Tennessee,
and I'm sure she's
Oklahoma
a very
State.
sweet woman.
Oh, I'm sure she is too. She's an amazing person, I'm sure. Tennessee, Oklahoma State, which I think is going to be. I hope this matchup happens because I think it's going to be a really, really good game if it does take place. So Tennessee or Oklahoma State.
Yeah, I'm taking the better of the two oranges. I'm going Oklahoma State.
I'm doing the same thing. I think they have enough talent to beat that squad because, like you said, that's a Tennessee team that either shows up or they don't. We've seen that a lot this year. Now Oklahoma State, there's been times they've done that too, but they're hitting their stride right now, man. I think they have what it takes to get it done. I had Syracuse going on there with West Virginia. You had San Diego State. San Diego State or West Virginia?
Yeah, as much as I'd love the upset, I think I'm going to go with West Virginia. I think they got enough.
I've got the 11-3 there, and get ready for this. I'm pushing Syracuse another round. I think they can beat West Virginia. Yeah, I really do. I think West Virginia is overrated. I thought they were coming into this tournament. I thought they were after Oklahoma State beat them and they barely moved. I don't believe in this West Virginia team right now to make a lot of noise. I like Syracuse. I'm telling you, this is a team that when they can get on shooting the basketball, a lot of teams won't beat them, plain and simple. Clemson and I think you had Rutgers.
Yeah.
Rutgers and Houston.
I'm going upset. I'm going Rutgers.
Ooh, okay. You're advancing
That's where I think Houston's overrated.
Okay. I think Houston's overrated right here as well, but I went with the Clemson, who I picked, so I like a ACC Syracuse-Clemson matchup. In the Sweet 16, Gonzaga or Virginia?
Yeah, I'm going to have to go with Gonzaga.
I'm doing the same thing. I love Virginia. I really do. I think they could beat Gonzaga. But I like Gonzaga's they're so deep. I think they can advance to the Elite Eight for sure. 2-3, Kansas and Iowa.
I got Iowa.
I did the same thing, man. Iowa is really, really good. They can
they
shoot
are.
the lights out of the basketball too. Luka guards is unbelievable. Michigan, Florida State.
I'm going Michigan.
I pushed Florida State. I think they have what it takes to take. I don't know if Livers if Livers isn't back by then, I think they're in some serious trouble.
For sure.
Nobody knows yet. So I'm going Florida State. I had Texas and Alabama.
I've got Alabama. Yeah, well, I had the upset there.
That's right.
But
I don't mind that. I actually got Texas. I've got them in the Elite Eight, taking on Florida State there, 3-4. I think they are that good. Baylor and who did you have in that one? Purdue?
Baylor, Purdue. I got Baylor.
Okay, I've got Baylor as well. I had Ohio State and Texas Tech. That's where I think it kind of runs out of the tank, so I'm going Ohio State in that one.
Yeah, I'm going Arkansas.
Ooh, wow.
Yeah.
You really believe in this Arkansas team.
They're good.
Okay. All right. We have Oklahoma State and Illinois.
This was a brain pick.
Mm-hmm.
It's not a heart pick. Because, damn it, I would love to see Mike Boynton and Cade Cunningham beat Brad Underwood. But Illinois is so good. I think it's going to be closer than people think it's going to be. But I just don't know. I think Illinois is going to have a little bit too much.
I basically did the same thing. I think they have the ability to beat Illinois, and if they did, their run looks really good because getting up to that Final Four is a real possibility at that point. But that's a tall task, man. Anyone that doesn't believe in Illinois right now is out of their mind. You haven't watched them play.
Well,
Brad Underwood has his squad. From the start, they are going to be, I think, a favorite to make it all the way this year. Now, Oklahoma State could beat them, and I would say that it's certainly possible. But it's just going to be too much. This is a squad where I think Illinois would force Oklahoma State to turn the ball over too much, and it's one of those games where I don't think they'd come back from that.
Well, let me throw you some numbers here. 17.6 and 9.6. That's 17.6 points per game and 9.6 rebounds per game, and those pair with 7 foot 285 pounds.
Yeah.
Kofi Cockburn is going to be the difference down low for Illinois.
Sure, absolutely, and we talked about that's been one of OSU's weaknesses. So I think it'll be a heck of a game if it happens, no doubt. So I had Syracuse and Clemson, and I am pushing the Qs to the Elite Eight. The Orangemen are going to the Elite Eight. Who do you have in that one?
So I had this was my was it West Virginia Rutgers? Is that?
Yes, I believe that's correct. Yep.
I've got West Virginia.
Ooh, in the Elite Eight.
Yeah,
okay.
I got a 3 taken out of 10.
Oh, how about that? All right, in the Elite Eight, Gonzaga 1, Iowa 2.
I think this is going to be, if that's the matchup that actually happens, it's going to be one of the best matchups in the entire tournament.
Yes.
You kind of wish it'd be like a Final Four type game, but I've got Gonzaga in a close one.
I have Iowa. I think they're the team that's good enough. If I remember correctly, these two teams met earlier in the season. I
think
believe.
so.
And Gonzaga got them. But I think by this point, Iowa's going to be clicking on all cylinders. They can. I'm telling you, they shoot as good, or if not better, than any team in the country. I think they get it done. I have Florida State and Texas in my next one. I've got Texas in the Final Four. I really do. I think they're that good. I said that all season long. I'm gonna stick by it. Who do you have in that matchup?
I gotta find it.
I think it was Michigan. You had Alabama, I know, in there.
Yeah, I had Alabama moving, so it's Michigan. Is it Michigan, Alabama?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it'd be 1-2.
I've got Alabama.
Okay, Alabama in the Final Four. Baylor, Ohio State, 1-2. I pushed Baylor to the Final Four.
Yeah, I've got Baylor over Arkansas.
Yeah, okay. All right. I think that's certainly, if they got to that one, yeah, I think so too. Illinois, and I'm giving the Syracuse, the run's going to end in the Elite Eight for them. Illinois is going to be there. So I've got 2 1 seeds at Baylor, Illinois, and Iowa, Texas in the Final Four.
Yeah, I've got Illinois over West Virginia.
Okay, so you've got them there too. So Iowa, Texas for me, 2-3. I think Iowa gets into the national championship game. Who do you have in that first matchup with Iowa?
Let's see. I've got Gonzaga.
Oh yeah, that's right. You had Gonzaga.
I had Gonzaga, Alabama, so I've got Gonzaga taking it.
Ooh, okay, Gonzaga's in the championship game, and then I put Baylor over Illinois. I think that'd be a heck of a battle. So my championship game is Iowa and Baylor, and I went with Iowa to win it all, 81-76.
Yeah, so I have Illinois over Baylor, so I've got a Gonzaga, Illinois, and it would be I have Gonzaga winning it all, 91-84.
Okay, I'm not mad with that. I think those teams right there, man. It's hard to say that they're above the rest because the NCAA tournament shocks you all the time, but man, they are really, really talented. There you go. There's our picks for the bracket. If you have questions, you can always call in. We'll give you advice on what we do. The playing games start now, and then tomorrow morning you'll have the official NCAA tournament kickoff. When we come back, we'll get into some buy or sell. This is the Afternoon Sports Drive.
Today met my doom, took one in the boiler room. Put food on the table of a dying breed man. Once I was a broken heart, once I tore your heart.
Back into the
apart.
Afternoon Sports Drive on the Triple Play Sports Radio Network. Patrick Wheeler, Zach Lancaster. I'm live over here at Exchange Bank and Trust, 4301 West 6th in Stillwater. Customer service department is located right here in Stillwater. If you call the bank, you're getting a local person answering your call and solving your problems. It is not an automated voice. It is not a robot. It's not anything that's going to annoy you. It is an actual person. Their customer service department is going to answer and figure out what you need done over here only at Exchange Bank and Trust. In this segment, we're going to get real quickly here to some buy or sell.
Are you buying?
I'd buy that for $1.
Or are you selling?
You'll pick up the phone and you'll sell.
This is Buy or Sell on the Afternoon Sports Drive.
Make money, make money.
Buy or sell here on the Afternoon Sports Drive, Triple Play Sports Radio. Patrick Wheeler, Zach Lancaster. All right, Zach, lead it off on this Thursday.
All right, so I'm going to stick with basketball. I'm going with OSU. Right now, I believe it's 7.5 is what that spread is. So Oklahoma State covers 7.5.
Yeah, I like that. I think this is a game they could win by double digits, and I don't think anyone would blink an eye. Now, I know that Liberty does possess a unique defensive style, that's for sure. That's what we talked about with Damian. That's no surprise. So it'll be interesting to see how long it takes OSU to adapt to that, because I do think there's going to be a bit of a feeling out process in this game. It's something that Cade Cunningham does a lot, is he will feel out, as you've noticed in that first half, where he can attack and things like that. But this is a game where I don't think it takes that long for him. He realizes what he's about to get and makes the most out of it. So, yeah, I expect Oklahoma State to cover 7.5. In fact, I would take that. I think they're going to win this game by 10 or more for sure.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, same.
It's a game where I think they're just offensively just going to take over, man. I really, really do believe that's about to happen.
Yeah, you look at that offensive trio. You look at that offensive duo of Cade and Avery. I think this is going to be a big game for Caleb Boone down low. I think he's gonna get quite a bit. I'd be curious to see if Bryce bounces back, and with Isaac likely coming back and playing 3 games in the Big 12 tournament and then having about a week off. before this. I like his chances to really step up. I don't think Liberty has enough to really overcome the offensive firepower OSU has.
Yeah, same here with me. Buy or sell, Oklahoma State hits 10-plus threes tomorrow night against Liberty.
Okay, yeah. So when I first read your text, 10-plus threes, I was like, is he talking like through the first two rounds? Like, I just don't see it. I mean, they're capable of hitting 10-plus threes, but they haven't really been that capable as of late. So, I mean, I guess you could say they're due. How about this? In order for them to hit 10 threes, they're going to need to get at least 3 from Bryce, and he has really, really struggled as of late. So if Bryce steps it up and has a big game, then I'll buy it. But I don't see it happening. So I'm gonna sell it.
The only reason I want to buy it, and I think I'm going to buy it, is because we talked with Damien there about the line drives that are something that is stopped by this Liberty defense, and they haven't faced an Oklahoma State offense. Let's not sell ourselves short here. They haven't faced an offense like this this year, but there are multiple guys on this team that love to do that. And that means that when they run into some of those situations, you're going to be kicking the ball out, whether you're finding Rondell Walker, whether you're finding Bryce, Cade, whoever it's going to be, all those guys that now, of course, they have to have the three-point shot going for them. That's no doubt. But I think it's going to happen. This is a team we know that loves to hit threes, and I think they're going to get a majority of their points early on from doing that. Of course, they'll find their way inside, and M.A. or Caleb Boone will end up having a pretty solid day. I believe that too. But outside, you're going to make a living from there, at least in that first half. And with all those guys I mentioned, I'm counting definitely on Bryce to step up and be back to where we've seen from him earlier this year. Hopefully he's all good to go now. And Rondell, I think, is going to have a really decent game. I think this team swings together right at 10 threes. I'm not going to say over, but I'm going to say they hit that 10 right on the dot, and it's going to be just a high-scoring game for Oklahoma State. What else you got?
So I'm sticking with basketball. I'm sticking with points, but I'm going with Avery Anderson. So buy or sell, Avery breaks 20 points.
Yeah, man. I think this is definitely a game that he can do that. He's certainly going to be one of those guys that gets a number of chances coming off the dribble and things like that too. And will he be the beneficiary of a couple of double teams on Cade, something like that? I would have to think that would probably be the case. I think it's going to be more of a spread out game though. You know, one of those games where you see Cade well over 20 points, and then the next guy up is sitting at like 15 or 17, and you've got two other guys that are at like 11 or 13. It's going to be something like that for me. So I'll sell over 20, but he's going to be up in the high teens, no doubt.
Yeah, I think Avery has a really good game, but I can't see him getting really more than 17. I think you're going to see Cade really take off. I think Cade's going to have a huge game. Now, like you said, Avery's going to benefit from those double teams on Cade, but I'm with you. I think Avery's setting right around 17. So I'll sell it. I don't think he hits 20. Love to be wrong.
Sure, yeah, no doubt. Buy or sell. So I was looking at, we talked about it just a bit with the Chicago Bears. Mitch Trubisky is gone. Buy or sell, you basically are just going to pick one here. Andy Dalton or Nick Foles? Which one of those is going to be the starter for the Bears this season?
Okay.
Try not to throw up when you think about it.
Yeah, let's see. I'll go with Nick Foles because he's won a Super Bowl. How about that?
Okay.
And that's the only parameter. It doesn't have anything to do with talent, but it's everything to do with hardware.
It was funny because right after I sent that to you, I'd actually seen that Andy Dalton in his press conference had said that one of the reasons he chose the Bears is because they told him he was going to be the starter. So we'll see, though. I don't know if I'm necessarily sold on. I mean, I guess I would be because I think he will be the starter. If you look at it, he is at best a marginal upgrade from Nick Foles,
True.
And that's at best. He's not going to be a guy that necessarily, and really, if you look at what he's done, he's not going to be the sole reason you lose a ton of games. And he will keep you in it at times. Nick Foles will be the reason you lose games at times, no doubt. So I think Andy Dalton starts the season But would I be shocked to see Nick Foles at some point be the starter, whether that's 5, 6 games in, whatever, out of the second half? No doubt. I mean, I think he's going to find himself in there at some point because think about being a Bears fan during all this, Zach. You had all these rumors that Russell Wilson was going to be the guy. It might have even been Deshaun Watson, and then what do you end up with? Andy Dalton and Nick Foles. I mean, are you kidding me right now? It's just like I couldn't imagine being a Bears fan.
Man, just go throughout the history of Chicago sports. You know,
Sure.
like the Bears were good for a while, but when was the last time the Bears were really, really good competing for Super Bowls?
No, they haven't had a good and quarterback-wise, they haven't had a good quarterback in 70 years.
No. You know,
it's where their careers come to die.
Then they got crappy pizza. I mean, good Lord.
I'm with you. I'm also not a fan of the Chicago style. I would agree with that too.
This is just soup.
I know, it's disgusting.
If I wanted marinara, I would just get spaghetti.
Yeah, when I order pizza, I'm like as little pizza sauce as you can. Honestly. Same. Like it's not my. Oh, look at that. We know what's good.
Same.
And Chicago, man, yeah, poor Bears fans. When we come back here on the afternoon sports drive, we're going to tell you what we learned to finish up the show live from Exchange Bank and Trust. Back after this.
Feel like I'm gonna puke, cause my taxes are due. Do my password begin with a 1 or a 2? Been a hell of a ride, but I'm thinking it's time to grow.
Metronome.
Man, I'm up to something. Woody-la-di-do, thank you all for coming. I hope you like the show, cause it's on a budget. So woody-la-di-do, yeah. Come on, here we go, yeah. Come on.
Here we go.
So put your best face on, everybody pretend you know this.
We'll go back into the afternoon sports drive on the Triple Play Sports Radio Network. Patrick Wheeler, Zach Lancaster getting ready to round out the show. Mount St. Mary's is up on Texas Southern 30-20 at halftime, fighting for a chance to get into the field of 64. Drake and Wichita State coming up after that. Appalachian State, Norfolk tonight at 7:40, and then to cap everything off at 8:57, UCLA and Michigan State in your playing games for the NCAA tournament. To finish out the show, by the way, live over here at Exchange Bank and Trust. Appreciate everything they've done. For everybody out here, for me today, 4301 West 6th. This is their 125th anniversary this year, celebrating serving customers in northern Oklahoma. So happy anniversary to Exchange Bank and Trust. To round out the show, we're going to tell you what we learned.
The day is coming to an end. Time to find out if these two got any smarter. Let's find out what the guys learned today on the afternoon sports drive.
Well, I learned something today.
So what I learned, Zach, is that the Bears, while they did grab Andy Dalton, they also made a very hefty offer to get Russell Wilson, and it was absolutely turned down. And when you see what they were offering, it's pretty incredible. Dan Patrick said on his show the other day that they offered 3 first-round picks, a third-round pick, and 2 starters for Russell Wilson.
Sheesh.
That is around what we were hearing was being thrown around for Deshaun Watson. And I would think right there most teams would take that. But what we had talked about with the Seahawks was they still had zero incentive, and the only thing they really had to, that would even make them want to trade Russell Wilson would be something like that. And even that right there, when you get a deal as heavy as that, with all of that potential with the picks and everything, it goes to show that when quarterbacks have top 5, or NFL teams have top 5, top 10 quarterbacks, they never want to get rid of them because of how hard it is, again, to hit on another one of those. Even with how disgruntled they may be, even with Russell Wilson publicly calling the linemen out and saying this and that, and things aren't so great with the coaching staff or whatever, an organization rarely will even think about. As much as we like to throw it around, as much as rumors come out there, we'll even think about getting rid of a quarterback with the talent like Russell Wilson has. It's kind of why we were talking about the same thing with the Texans with Deshaun Watson. So I don't think, though, that it's completely out of the water that Russell Wilson doesn't get moved, but it would be hard to, I think, give any more than that right there. And maybe that's something the Seahawks are saying is like, well, still, if we were going to get rid of him, it would only be, we'd have to have more than that, which is pretty incredible to think about. But Russell Wilson, honestly, I mean, when you look at it, we talked about it over and over with the Bears. He was never going to the Bears. There was no way. I know they made the offer, but you can't tell me that he personally would have been happy playing in Chicago. In Seattle, you get DK, who's arguably pushing top 5 receiver when he's on. You get Tyler Lockett, who's insane. At the other place in Chicago, you get what? Allen Robinson, and that's it. And he's not happy all of a sudden because he doesn't have the quarterback that he wants. So it's obviously a mess over there. And I just think that if they were to get a couple alignment with Seattle, things would slow down for him. He would maybe stop with the whole let me explain my issues here, and he would just get back to playing his football. But I mean, it just goes plain to see right there that it's going to take a lot, and I mean a lot, for any quarterback like Deshaun Watson or Russell Wilson to leave their teams.
Yeah, that's insane. That's an insane amount to give for a quarterback. So I found out today that Thursday Night Football has a new home.
I saw that.
The NFL finalized a new 11-year deal exclusive to Amazon. So Thursday Night Football, if you want to watch that, you're going to have to watch it on Amazon Prime. Amazon is paying $1 billion per year to stream Thursday Night Football. Ooh. I'm not sure Thursday Night Football is worth $1 billion, and I don't think Thursday Night Football is enough to get me to buy an Amazon Prime subscription. I also found out that Viacom, CBS, Fox, and Comcast all pay more than $2 billion for their packages, while Disney, which we know owns ABC and ESPN, pays roughly $2.7 billion. So that, to me right there, when you're paying for every single game on Sundays and Mondays, and you're paying $2 billion for several games, I'm thinking Amazon got screwed on this deal.
Well, it just goes to show that's clear, how much the NFL dominates TV markets.
Yeah.
And when you go around and you look at some of the highest ratings in terms of shows and things like that, you always see NFL games, right up there at the top. And of course, some of a lot of them are postseason things like that, but still, these TV deals. I mean, you look at what they did overall, and they had $10 billion annually, and it's over $110 billion over the course of 11 years in deal. That's insane. Those numbers are absolutely insane. Like you said, the biggest one, Thursday Night Football on Amazon Prime, which you run into a bunch of games on Thursday nights that are usually they can turn out to be duds. I've said for years that I love as a viewer, getting the chance to have football in the middle of the week, but it's usually so bad that sometimes it's like, man, I wish they would just push that a little bit further down the line, maybe have like a Friday night game or something like that.
Just go back to streaming it on Twitter.
Oh my gosh. I'm telling like the Amazon Prime, I didn't have a huge issue with it when we saw it earlier this year. There was a little bit of a quality thing if you paid enough attention to it, but I think they would have to tweak things a little bit. But it's still something that obviously they're fully entrenched on getting out there. So, and honestly, Zach, we talked about it earlier this year. That's where everything's headed, man.
Yeah.
I mean, as we've said, it's all about streaming, as you know.
No, absolutely, and that's what I'm surprised, but not surprised that Amazon is getting into the football game. I can see them doing, I think Thursday night, 11 years. That's a really long time. But if it's that's the thing is like if Amazon is successful with Thursday Night Football, now there's nothing they can do about the matchups. But if they can turn this into a good product, then this right here paves the way for a lot more stuff to go streaming.
Yeah, our boy, I've had Ben Fisher on a few times. He actually broke that story with Sports Business Journal. He's been on this show a couple of times. I'll have to see if we can get him on because he broke that story with all the new deals and made sure to put out, too. I was looking at his Twitter that everybody understands because it's easy to get lost in there. That all those changes will take place officially in 2023. But that's going to be up here quicker than you think. The NFL, they just continue to expand their footprint, plain and simple. I don't think, too, it'd be far-fetched, Zach, to think at some point you may see a team in another country. There's been a lot of talk, right? A lot of talk about teams, whether you would go over there into Europe, put a team in, or wherever, Mexico, whatever you want to do, Canada possibly. I think that their expansion is really unlimited at this point with everything that they have going on. So, yeah, good stuff there. Definitely learned a little bit towards the end with all that. So there you go. This has been the Afternoon Sports Drive. Appreciate earlier on, having Damian Sordelet come in from covering Liberty. He's on his way to the tournament, so he gave us good insight on what to expect tomorrow's matchup. Updated schedule for tomorrow for us. Again, it's only going to be a 1-hour show, as we'll have the Oklahoma State pregame basketball show cutting in there in the middle of hours as well, so you'll be able to get the breakdown, what to expect. And now when the NCAA tournament will be well underway when we come on tomorrow, so we'll give you all the updates you need and much more. Make sure you keep it locked here. Thank you to Exchange Bank for hosting me today. Appreciate them as always. Come check them out, 4301 West 6th over here in Stillwater. For Zach Lancaster, I'm Patrick Wheeler. This has been the Afternoon Sports Drive on the Triple Play Sports Radio Network.